March 19th, Monday. Played at nights with Mark, Oliver, and Humphrey today. As Mark is bigger than me, he was the horse and I rode his back. We won. Oliver toppled from his horse and got a bloody nose. Serves him right. He did twist my ears most painfully and call me the worst names when first I wore my new shirt. March 20th, Tuesday. Wrote yesterday's by candle flicker and fell asleep with quill in hand. When I awoke, the candle had set the pages alit and would have burnt my straw mattresses, or worse, if Humphrey had not smelled the smoke and beat out the flames. This morning, Chaplain likewise beat my backside to teach me care with candles, he said. Ate saltfish again today. Disgusting. Here they are, more careful to follow the churches than at home, so besides every Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday being fish days, they also eat fish once on each church festival. This means we eat vile fish more often than flesh or fowl. April 11th, Tuesday. Watched my uncle practice for the joust today. He charged 11 times at a wooden ring hung from a tree and caught it on his lance 5 times. It takes much skill to lift the ring from his hook while galloping at full speed, and all who saw agreed his body's well for the contest. This bodes well for the contest. April 22nd, the Lord's Day. Tomorrow began the joust. The hosts of the noble knights who accepted my uncle's challenge are lodged at inns nearby or are encamped upon the fields outside the castle. 2 gaily colored tents sprouted in the night like mushrooms, flying from lances planted in the ground. The knights' pennants look like flowers in a spring meadow. All the talk of it who shall prevail, and methinks the men of the castle guard place wages on the winner. I pray my uncle shall vanquish them all. April 23rd, Monday. This being the feast day of St. George, the whole castle was astir well before sunrise in preparation for the joust. All the clashes were kneeling fought, but I shall give account for my father's combat first. All the clashes were nearly fought, but I shall give account of my uncle's combat first. His opponent was Lord Sudbury. Everyone from the castle and the village folk besides gathered eagerly to watch their charge. After some ceremony of which I shall tell later, the 2 knights trotted to opposite ends of the list, which is what they call the strip of the field where the combat takes place. When they were some 300 paces apart, they turned to face each other. The sunlight danced on their shining helms and on the bright colors of their families' arms blazed on their shields and armor. On the command, Lazes Alar from a herald, both knights urged their horses forward. Pricked with sharp spurs, the snorting horses galloped faster and faster until they ran as swift as a March gale. Each knight aimed his lance at the shield to the other, and the watchers cried, "Huzzah!" When my uncle stayed on his horse and knocked Sudbury to the ground, 3 times my uncle toppled Sudbury. At their third meeting, though, the force of Sudbury blow lifted my uncle, too, clean from his saddle. Those who watched gasped, "Alas!" in fear for my uncle's life, but he quickly rose to his feet and raised his iron glove to steel the hubert. Then, though, he found that he could not raise the visor on his helm, so twisted it was from the fall. And when later the heralds announced that my uncle was the victor, he was nowhere to be found. At length, a search of the castle discovered my uncle in the armory, with his head laid on an anvil and the smith at work upon his helm. 'Tis surely a wonder that Smith could remove it without harming a hair on my uncle's head. April 25th, Wednesday. There seems each day of the joust to be less the sport than the day before and more boring ceremony. Before combat begins each morn, the knights withdraw to their arming tents with the squire helps him dress for the joust. When they return fully armed, there is much bowing low and making of speeches. When these dull preparations are complete, the heralds proclaim the names of the combatants, whose faces are hidden behind their shining helms. Only then do the 2 knights face each other and spur the horses on, and to mine the excitement the followers is over far too soon. April 26th, Thursday. The jousting ends at last. I swear I should die of boredom if I were to listen to just one more speech. And afterwards, so many charges, all nights look the same. If I had known it would be thus, I should have foreign illness on Monday, and so escaped the ordeal. The new hose that I wear for this grand event is hot, and it clings to my leg as tightly as skin clings to a sausage. It is my duty to wait upon my aunt all day while she watches, which tires me much. Gilbert, Earl of Hertford, was this day mortally wounded in the joust, but when I talked of it with Mark, he only said, "Well, 'tis common." May 3rd, Thursday. Today was an Egypt day, and as we all know, ill fortune follows any work that starts on these 2 unlucky days in the month. Our chaplain cautions us that 'twas but a superstition from the heathen Egypt. But my uncle also told us we should not mind. Later, though, I heard him tell a groom to put away his horses he has saddled, for only fools start journeys on Egypt days. May 14th, Monday. While we studied this forenoon, my cousin Abigail scratched a message in her wax tablet and passed it to me. Chaplain seized it, and now I must rise before dawn for a week and pray with him. This seems to be most unjust. I am punished, though I did no wrong. She did wrong, yet she is not punished. May 27th, the Lord's Day. Yesterday was one of great celebration. My uncle dubbed Simon a knight. Now he is 21. Simon has been full 7 years a squire and has learned well the noble skills of knighthood. 2 days did Simon spend in prayer fasting. On Sunday night he slept not at all, but kept vigil in the chapel, praying until dawn. Then at cock crow he bathed and dressed in a tunic of pure white and attended mass. Only after this could he break his fast and venture into the bailey for the armoring ceremony. First my uncle dressed him in a coat of mail. Then Simon put on gleaming helm and gilded spurs, and gasped the shield painted with the 2 Burgess ravens. When this was done, he knelt to await the collie. The blow from my uncle's sword would make him a knight. I thought this would be no more than a light tap, and was alarmed to see how heavy was the blow. But Simon was expected thus. He rose speedily and swore a solemn vow to be a gallant and brave knight. Then all cheered, and he mounted a fine Spanish parfait and rode around the bailey. Later there was feasting in the hall in Simon's honor. He will make a fine knight, and he is a good and kind cousin. June 9th, Saturday. The weather of late has been foursome hot. We have not seen a cloud in weeks, and the ground is parched from want of rain. The river has sunk low, and then any can remember, and the green slime grows in the part of the moat where we usually swim. In the bailey, 2 men dig a new well. This is oft a wet and muddy task, but as there is little water to fill the well, the men can work dryfoot. June 13th, Wednesday. The garden robes all reek. When I have need of them, I rush in nimbly, clutching my nose. I let fall my hose and pray that relief will be quick. This forenoon, when I sat upon the wooden seat, out from under it flew a black fly, so fat that at first I took it to be a wren. June 15th, Friday. This day, the Gog farmer came from the village to work down the south wall. On the side of the castle, the garden robes empty down chutes into the moat, but because had been no rain, the moat is sluggish in its flow, and everything that falls from the chutes stays where it drops. The Gog farmer must clear not only these piles, but others besides from Eswa in the castle. The garden robes empty into pits, which must be cleaned to keep them sweet. One of the guard robes shoots is blocked, and the gong father must reach up inside the slimy pipe to unclog it. I would not do his job for all the king's gold. A humming black cloud hangs always above a gong father's head. Nose warns of approach long before eyes spies him, and all the ears are alert to the squeaking of his stinking cart. June 20th, Wednesday. Woke 2 nights past to the crashing of thunder. Now the rain does not stop, and we are awash with water. July 9th, Monday. Today at table, my aunt and uncle talked softly mouth to ear. Isabel, my aunt's companion, had told me that a grand earl is coming to Stringborough. He and his household are journeying north and will rest at the castle for at least 2 nights. I divined from their talk that my aunt and uncle are already planning a great banquet for the visit, and though 'tis still some weeks away. July 14th, Saturday. This morning, my aunt told Isabel the reason for my uncle's keen preparation, and as she is friendly towards me, Isabel has entrusted me also with the secret. It seems this great earl has the ear of the king, and my uncle hopes to gain favor by welcoming him. Though my uncle's castle is grand, this earl has an estate many times larger, and there are pebbles on a beach, so his gold coins is equal numbers. July 20th, Friday. Isabel tutored me in table matters this day, though I needed it not. If you eat with the earl's household while they are here, she said, have a care to spit politely on the floor, not over the table. When I sniffed, she reminded me that if I should wipe my nose, it only seemly to clean my hand on my clothes before touching food. July 27th, Friday. Towards the end of the lessons today, we heard music from beyond the castle walls. Abigail and I made haste to find out whence come the sound, and Simon told us that a band of players had passed by on their way to the village inn. They had come to my uncle's bidding for the banquet. These folks journey near and far, singing for their bread, and Simon has said that he will take us to see them on the morrow. July 28th, Saturday. We found the players outside the village church, amusing a crowd of folk. The tumblers were most marvelous, and though one showed me how he walks on his hands, I could not master even one step. The minstrel sang of our king's victory in the west. Their verses brought news, too, of wars and great happenings in other lands. Most sons were jolly, though, and the crowd that was gathered there knew them of old and joined in with their choruses. A few folks dropped a farthing in the leathern hat which the tumblers passed around. Others gave them bread or cheese or brought a jug of ale to pay them for this fine entertainment. July 30th, Monday. Today, 2 great ox carts trotted across the drawbridge to the kitchen yard. It took cook servants nearly half the day to unload the store all the provisions for the feast. The first cart bore barrels of wine and ale, so large they had to be rowed for they could not be lifted. The second cart held all manner of meats and fish. One was most strange, with its tail of fish, but the fur of a beast, and the face of a man, with whiskers complete. Later, cook told me to some kind of sea beast. 'Tis fantastical food we should be eating when at last we sit down at our trenchers. On Wednesday arrives the earl, and Thursday will be the banquet. August 7th, Tuesday. The 5 days passed, the whole household supped in the hall in honor of our most noble guest, the Earl of Branstone. But straightway after the feast, a fever afflicted me, and I was taken to lie in the great chamber where my aunt and Isabel could watch over me. Though somewhat recovered, I am weak as a kitten and may stay in bed, so shall use this time to write a few events, for I fear I neglect my journal. The feast itself was the grandest thing I had ever seen. I could not help but stare at the many fine clothes and gold and silver dishes. It was the food, though, that caused all the present to gasp in amazement and marvel at the seamless, endless array of dishes. Here were majestic peacocks, stuffed and roasted and proudly dressed in their feathers, and there were tiny tongues of larks. The fish of all kinds in plenty, and baked and boiled and platter across platter of roasted meats, rich with sauces. The earl had come with a host of servants who helped us bring out the dishes for each course. Each dish was carried in with much ceremony and presented to my uncle and the earl before it was served. When the dishes were laid on the table, we sat down to eat. There were a great many dishes I did not recognize. One seemed half bird, half beast. Mark named it cockatrice, 'tis called, but I know not where it was hunted. This made Humphrey laugh so hard that he almost spat out his food. "Mark," he snorted, "'tis but a kitchen trick. First, they pluck a big fowl and cut it across the waist. Then they take a piglet, likewise cut it half and sew it top the bottom of to another. This cockatrice tasted good, but the noble earl would not eat of it, or any other dish, before his butler has tasted it to see if it was fit for his master. I tire now, and so shall write more upon the morrow.